I'm Brent Halfwasson. I'm an entrepreneur coach. I'm the host of Entrepreneur Encounters. My goal is to help you be able to grow your business to profitability. So I've got an amazing guest on today, Joe Skotarzak, and I think you're going to love his story. He has got a ton of entrepreneurial experience behind his belt. I met him as a mentor in a program. So do stay tuned. I think you're going to love what you hear. And if you have an opportunity, why don't you go ahead and drop stuff in the chat or in the comments here on this post. This is our first time actually going here on this live format. So again, thanks for this. And Joe, welcome to the show.
Good morning. Glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Hey.
Appreciate the opportunity to have a chat. Always good to see you.
Awesome. Hey, and I appreciate your willingness to jump on live here and just figure this thing out as it goes. So
yes, this is an adventure first for me too. So hopefully this all goes smoothly.
All right, the worst that can happen is I have to go press delete in an hour. So hey,
there you go.
Tell us about the business that you started. It was a little bit ago, but go ahead and tell us about the business that you started and tell us a little bit about yourself and your expertise.
Right. So I am Joe Skotarzak. I am general manager right now, Wisconsin operations for Mother G, which is a Compass MSP company. The business I started back when was River Run Computers, ran that for a good long time and exited, going on 4 years ago now. So I've been with Mother G, which became part of Compass about 3 years ago. So I've been in the small business technology space through the last couple of decades plus, really, as you said, Brent, helping companies to grow to profitability. Our mission and our model has always been to help companies leverage technology to increase their profitability, better take care of their own customers and that kind of thing. So
awesome. And there's been a lot of ways, even in the last 20 years, to be able to deliver that technological edge. What made you want to become an entrepreneur? Why did you decide to go ahead and be part of River Run to start with?
Yeah, that's a good question. And a couple of different answers. Going to the way back when I was a kid growing up, my dad was a small businessman for most of my childhood. Has always sort of worked in small businesses. He was an accountant by training, and got into a partnership when I was a kid. And so just really liked the whole idea of that. Control your own destiny, be able to provide a service in the way that you want to be able to do it. And so when I got out of school, I spent a handful of years working for a consulting company, switched careers into technology, and ultimately, the main thing that made me want to be an entrepreneur is the idea that, hey, if we get involved in this at the leader level, at the owner level, we can do this better. No slam at anybody that came before, but we had some ideas and we had some energy, and we wanted to take them out for a spin. So that's what we did.
Oh, that's kind of bold. Why don't you walk me through the journey? Because obviously 20 years in a business is a lot. And then you add on technology and Moore's law. I'm going to do a little math here in my head, but I think that means that like computing power increased by about 1,000-fold during the course of your career. So yeah. That's epic. That's a lot of change, but it also means that you clearly had to adjust. You had to adapt. You had to stay on top of your game in order to be relevant in technology over 20 years. So tell us about your journey.
Yeah. So basically we started, there was actually an existing company that we took ownership of, and it was doing good work. And we thought, like I said, we thought we could do it better. And so the market was changing. I mean, this goes back to the late 90s. And for those of us old enough to remember that, it was a very different technology world. Email hadn't been invented. We were barely in the Windows world. The internet was a twinkle in Al Gore's eye at that point. So, none of those connectivity things had been out there. But by the same token, things that haven't changed, especially in the small business space, is people trying to take care of their own customers and leveraging technology to do it. So we had a group of people, we leaned into it and we said, hey, look, let's focus on the service as opposed to the technology. Let's focus on helping our clients to run their businesses better using technology to focus on their customers as opposed to, technology for its sake. And you mentioned Moore's law, which is, the processing power doubles every, I think it was 18 months originally. And I think that's actually shortened to 12 months now. so it's an entirely different world many times over since the late 90s with all the things that have come out. We absolutely had to pivot. The biggest thing probably is the change in the cybersecurity stuff. I mean, from 20 years ago, when people were so much less connected, to 3 years ago, pre-COVID, that world changed by orders of magnitude, right? And it has continued to change. I mean, there's a lot of bad folks out there who are looking for an opportunity, and the cybersecurity risk, even in the last basically 18 months, right, since kind of the world shut down with COVID, everybody went remote, all those kind of things. It's frankly gotten scary out there. And so been many pivots all the way along in terms of how do we run this, what kind of team are we building, what are the services that our clients want and frankly need, because those aren't always the same thing, and there's always a balance there, right? You can't get too far out ahead of it, but also you can't be too reactive to it. So it's always an interesting challenge trying to find that sweet spot between what do they want and what do they need. So
awesome. Take me all the way back to the beginning. What type of choices did you need to make in order to get into business? I'm not sure what you needed in terms of infrastructure or hardware or a team, but it takes a lot to get started. So what did you need?
Yeah, I mean, we were fortunate in that there was some of that infrastructure already in place, but we needed a plan. We needed an idea, a go-to-market strategy, and that kind of thing. We needed some financing. We did a little bit of self-funding. We did a little bit of bank funding. I mean, we were a pretty small operation, and so we didn't require a ton of that. And we needed a network. A network in terms of people, in terms of support. We went the route of the MMAC. We got a lot of support out of different groups at the MMAC, peer groups and that sort of thing. But the requirements really were, have a plan, get the money set up, and figure out what's your support system and how can you sort of make that happen. So all three of those for us ended up going different directions. And again, like you say, over the course of time, they certainly evolved. Right. I mean, we went from the business plan running a tech company in the late 90s to the early 2000s to the mid 2000s with the economic crash and all of that kind of stuff. And then moving beyond that again as things like the cybersecurity threats evolved and that sort of stuff. So all of those things evolved. We took planning pretty seriously from the get-go. And the network of people, the peer groups were absolutely invaluable. They say it's lonely at the top. I was very fortunate to have a partner. A lot of people are more lone wolf oriented, if you will. I'm not wired that way. I mean, I think best talking. I mean, I love sitting here talking to you and just sort of having this conversation. I definitely think best out loud. So for me to have a partner was incredibly valuable. But also for us to have a network, I was in a tech group. And so I would take our issues there, get a cross-section of perspectives on, this sales question or that HR thing or this financing issue that we're running into, and be able to sort of bring that back and again, update that plan accordingly. So, again, in our case, our financing needs were, in the grand scheme, they were fairly simple, and we were not looking to grow anything really but organically. And so, but we were fortunate to have good partners in terms of financial partners to be able to facilitate what we were trying to accomplish when we were trying to accomplish it. So, those were really the three key pillars: is, have a plan, line up some financing, and get yourself a good network of support, and not just peer group stuff, but lawyers, accountants, marketing people. There's a whole world out there, right, of people to help you grow your business. Now we know, and where you and I met, for people that are really in startup mode, BizStarts has got some incredible programs to be able to help somebody go from kind of that idea of, this is the better mousetrap I want to build, to how do we make that happen? How do I get it organized and that kind of thing? And certainly BizStarts isn't alone. Wivik does some great stuff, MMACS programs. I mean, there are others out there beyond Biz Starts, but the programs are out there, and they're really, really useful, so that never should an entrepreneur feel like they've got to go out and reinvent the wheel.
No, absolutely. And I want to circle back in a little bit and talk about how you built that network base, because you mentioned a lot of important resources that many businesses need. But before I go there, still focusing on the technology issue, how did you dial in on the problem you wanted to solve? Technology, at one level, we're like, okay, technology is my computer, it's my devices. We had some devices starting to roll on the stage, right? But how did you decide what is the problem that we want to solve as River Run? Because technology as a whole is way too broad, particularly as a new company.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. And our process was really all about trying to figure out. I mean, we were trying to run our own business. What do we need out of our computers, our network, our connectivity, all that kind of stuff, and sort of extrapolating that and talking with other business owners back in the day, and it still continues to some degree to this day. People don't know what they don't know, right? And especially when it comes to technology. I mean, as you and I were talking about as we were kind of setting this up, you've got your computer, you've got your internet, you've got your phone, you've got your microphones and listening. It's all got to work together, and there's a magic to it. But at the same time, there's nothing magic about it. There's got to be a process to make it happen. And so, in terms of, getting back to your question, the problem to solve was, how do we make it work better, quieter, to facilitate our customers, our clients being able to run their businesses? Combination of support and strategy and security to be able to say, okay, I'm going to go focus on, in your case, coaching my customers; in a manufacturer's case, making my widgets; in an accounting firm's case, supporting our clients. Make the technology work. So that was sort of the vision of the problem we were trying to solve, is how do we just make this work, keep it quiet in the background? So over the course of my 25 years now in this business, a lot of those things have evolved, but the goal is the same. Talking with a guy earlier this morning, he's not getting good support, and he's got concerns about his security. It's, okay, well, we've got a process to help you with that. Do you want to talk about it? He says, yeah, I do, because it's right now technology is hindering my ability to run my business, take care of my things. And so even 25 years later, with all this different stuff going on, the goal is the same: have the technology work, make it safe, stable, and secure, so that ultimately I can stay focused on my customer. Does that make sense?
Oh, I mean, absolutely. It's but ultimately, I think the key I want to highlight for people who are watching and listening is you chose to focus in on an area, and I think that security theme was one that was important. And obviously that evolves at a different and strange rate that sometimes isn't even associated with the hardware and software that's underlying. It's kind of right. It's a space race on that one. So talk a little bit about what type of adaptations did you have to do along the way? Obviously, there's keeping up with the latest upgrades, updates, or security flaws and weaknesses. But did your business model evolve along the way?
Yeah, I mean, that's a really good question, and in the computer and the technology space, it definitely did. As all of these different features and functions were sort of rolling around, we back to your prior question, the problem to solve was, how do we make it work, right? And a big part of that, the evolution became, from a reactive call us when something breaks, to a proactive, there's maintenance things that we can do that will reduce the amount of breakage, to where we live today is truly in a preventative mode, where there are best practices that systematically applied will absolutely reduce security risks, will reduce downtime, will reduce user issues. So there's a big evolution there as the tools have gotten better. The hardware's gotten more reliable, the software's gotten more powerful, AI and business machine learning and all those kind of things, business intelligence, et cetera. It's really migrated from a a reactive break fix model to a truly preventative approach to things, to say, look, it's not good enough anymore to come when I call and to come quickly. I want to avoid the thing in the first place. You're the CEO of a manufacturing firm and you got 20 people in your office, your email going down costs you very real money very, very quickly. So it's not about how quickly do we get it back up. It's about what are the best practices, what are the processes to prevent those issues in the first place. That's probably been the biggest evolution in terms of the technology space. And it's coupled with the fact that, 25 years ago, your computers, your network, all of that technology stuff, if you will, it was sort of a necessary evil in a lot of cases, right? Today, there are a lot of companies where it still is, they're not super tech dependent, but there are a lot of people where they are absolutely dependent on it. That, they're a small manufacturer and they're in the supply chain too, the GEs, the Johnson Controls, the enormous companies of the world, Milwaukee Tool, et cetera, right here in town. And, they need to be punching above their weight. And the only way they can do that is with, rock solid technology that they can depend on. And so, for those people especially, the value of prevention is enormous, because if they can't get an invoice out, or they can't process an order, or they can't communicate with Milwaukee Tool goes and finds another supplier. And so we've all sort of lived through supply chain disruptions and that kind of stuff, especially the last 18 months. But that's been the biggest shift, is from reaction to proactive and all the way to prevention, especially for those companies that see technology as a force multiplier, see it as something that they can really leverage to grow their business, to make their business more profitable, and that sort of thing.
Awesome. Talk to me about obstacles that came up in the course of your business, and what did you do in order to overcome those obstacles? And just a couple examples here to kind of help understand, because this is, again, it may sound like, wow, 20 years in a business that got us really super established. Yes, but that doesn't mean obstacles don't show up. So what are a couple examples that come to mind for you?
Yeah, I'm smiling because, there's, in any business, certainly in any small business and any small growing business, there's obstacles every day. The plumbing backs up, the computers go down, the internet connection gets hit by a backhoe, when our neighbors are putting in their new driveway. 2008 comes along, and the whole financial world just craters, right? For those of us old enough to remember some of those things, so obstacles are big and small, and they're never ending. And gosh, how do you deal with them is, that's the difference between success and failure. Success isn't never getting knocked down, it's getting up one more time than you got knocked down, right? And I know that that's cliche, but boy, in 25 years, there's no more truer words than that. And again, that's where having a plan, having partners in terms of, financial people, especially when the crap hits the fan, on a macro level, COVID comes along 18 months ago, and having a network of people, partners, support people, professionals, whatever. All of those things together allow you to, when that obstacle presents, to kind of lean into it and say, okay, the sky's not falling, but this is a big deal. How do we respond to it? And so being able to, it's really, it's obviously never that simple, but directionally it matters. We're in this for the long haul, and we were always in it for the long haul. And so to be able to say, hey, look, here's this problem, talk to your partner, talk to your coach, talk to your peer group, talk to your experts, your banker, attorney, accountant, etc. Edit the plan, right? And be on your way. So, and I think the mindset really matters too. Taking the long view, knowing that obstacles are going to come. I mean, I've spent a lot of my time doing business development. You're making cold calls. You're going to get rejected, right? I mean, people are not going to want to talk to you. They're going to say, I'm not interested. Click. It's nothing personal. Make another call. So I mean, that's it at the most micro level, but the lesson ultimately is the same. That, hey, obstacles are going to come. The magic, if you will, is in leaning into them, assessing them, figuring out a plan, and executing, and then edit as appropriate, right? As Mike Tyson said, everybody's got a plan until they get punched in the face, right? I mean, business is no different, metaphorically speaking, right? You build a business plan, you create projections, you create marketing plans, et cetera, thinking, we're going to get this response rate. Well, when you don't, what do? You don't fold up your tent and go home. You edit the plan, right? You learn from the experience of what's going on, and you edit accordingly. So,
no, it's good stuff. What do you do how do you stay on top of your industry? Like, what do you do to keep getting more knowledge, to keep getting more training, to learn? Because everyone in every business needs to evolve, and yours seems especially so. You got to stay on top if you're going to be relevant.
Yeah, and that's a really good question, and you're right. I mean, certainly I would argue, certainly our tech guys. I mean, to be clear, I'm in sales, not production, so I am not a technician per se, but I know enough to not be dangerous. I know enough to when to take my hands off the keyboard and call the experts. But so certainly there's a lot of that in technology, but there is in everything. And so what do you do to stay on top of it? I think it's kind of akin to if you had a friend and your friend said that they had just come into some money and they were going to take that money and all of their other retirement money and they were going to buy this stock. What would you say to them? You would say, maybe you should diversify. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. I mean, I think staying on top of technology, on top of management, on top of financing, on top of all of those trends, it is really, really similar. Talk to people, do some reading, I mean, especially again, in the last 18 months, I mean, we're all, overwhelmed, if you will, by all of the webinars out there, all of the content out there, but, pick and choose your spots, but the real key is to diversify. Find a program like a BizStarts, find a group via the MMAC or wherever, a peer group where you can develop a relationship with people, and they get to know you, they get to know your business, they get to know your life. You get to be friends with them, so that when that issue comes, when life throws you a curveball because something changes, you've got a go-to group to say, hey, what do you guys know about this? Hey, have any of you guys experienced this? So that you're not fighting that battle alone. So to me, I mean, really the diversification of sources is by far the most important thing and the most valuable thing. So, there's a ton of content out there. It absolutely can be overwhelming, but pick your spots.
Yeah, I want to go back to the beginning, because you had mentioned that you put a pretty good network of professionals, of other professional services around you. But when you're starting out, you always can't afford to hire the world in on a team. So,
right.
So just talk to me a little bit about how you built that network, how you fostered that network, and how you've maintained some of those over time.
Yeah, no, it's a great question, and you're right. I mean, it's easy to say, go hire, but you can't, right? I mean, and so the biggest thing I think, and it's interesting, I'm reminded, I don't know if you've ever met Lori Hyvee. She would be a really good contact here for entrepreneur counters. She's got this podcast, Social Capital, and it's all about networking, right? And how do you do that? And so, as you think about that, I think there's a couple of keys to it. One is, don't go in looking for help necessarily, but look for how you can help. How can you bring value? I mean, everybody knows people, everybody has resources. I was talking to a guy just this morning, and he said, talking to somebody, maybe they're looking to get their house painted. I know a house painter, and he's good and he's honest and he's got a nice little business. So, go in seeking first to help and then only secondarily to get help. I mean, that's the easiest way to build a network, is to be helpful to people. And, also to be humble enough to ask for help. Hey, Brent, I got this business, I got this issue. Do you know anybody? Because people want to help, right? So, but you've got to be humble enough to ask for the help, right? In order to be able to sort of make that connection. Because if I ask you for help, what are you going to say? Hey, happy to help, right? But
And I think,
it does.
and if I can interrupt you, Joe, I think that right there, you just hit on the secret that a lot of people miss out on. I don't want to ask for help because they're busy, they got too much going on. The fact is, I just believe that a world of givers is going to be better than a world of takers. But I think most, particularly in the entrepreneurial space, if you take the time to ask, they may say not right now. And honestly, it may take 2 or 3 emails because I mean to get back to you, but then boop, disappears and is gone. Like, I didn't get to it till 2 months later when I'm clearing my inbox.
Right.
But most people would love to help, in particular if you make the ask easy. Do you know someone specifically in this area? You willing to make a quick introduction? Bam, absolutely. 2-minute email. Love it. Joe, just worked with Dan the other day. Really think you ought to get together with him, or like you just did, maybe giving the recommendation on someone else to be on the show. That's just huge in building the network. I didn't mean to interrupt, but I if you take nothing away from this show today, that's a piece I want you to take away. Make the ask, be ready to go. Yeah, no, for sure. And that's really well put, that a world of givers is better than a world of takers. And at the end of the day, I mean, we all want to live in that world. I mean, I spend enough time in cybersecurity that there are antisocial people out there who don't really want to live in that world. But anyway, exception that proves the rule. You're right. We all want to live in that world. So look to help and be humble enough to ask, are really the 2 keys there. And then, look, the important thing to keep in mind there is it doesn't happen overnight, right? I mean, we've all sort of heard and read the stories of the musician, the actor, the business person, whatever, that is the overnight success 20 years in the making, right? I mean, it takes time. Rinse, repeat, rinse, repeat, rinse, repeat. Be diligent and just keep going. Go to the networking events, reach out to people that you need help from. Be on LinkedIn, whatever, looking for ways to help other people. And over the course of time, it builds. And it's like Einstein said, there's no more powerful force in the universe than the power of compound interest. That's what we're talking about. Because, I mean, again, old enough to remember when LinkedIn was invented, the gist of it was, the power of LinkedIn is not our first line connections. The power of LinkedIn is the second level connections. It's not Joe and Brent. It's who are the 1,000, 2,000, however many thousand people you have that you're connected to that could be useful to somebody that I know, right? So that when I'm talking to my accountant and they need somebody to help them with their office furniture, I can look through and find, hey, my buddy Brent is connected to Gary at Creative Business Interiors, and let me see if I can make an introduction, whatever the case is. But that's where the power is that, again, sort of the force multiplier, if you will. Yeah. But yes, all starts with, be helpful, be humble, for sure. Awesome. Be helpful, be humble. That needs to be like the mantra for this show right now. Moving forward, obviously you mentioned that you decided to sell out your share. Talk a little bit about that decision. A lot of the interviews we've done so far on the show, we've been talking about people who are in process. They're still on the growth curve. They're accelerating. Mm-hmm. You came to a choice that it was time to be able to sell out your piece. But talk about how you came to that decision and how that kind of came together for you. Yeah, I mean, look, we had a great run. We were together almost 20 years to the day. And you hear a lot, it's time, right? And it was time. And so, but what ultimately made it successful for everyone involved is, we had gotten things organized in advance. We had created a business that wasn't dependent on either one of us to function, to survive. I mean, I think there's
there's a huge threshold there that is a struggle to a small business person. I was talking with a guy who runs a small operation, a little manufacturing operation, and he does all the sales, like literally 90% of the sales. And we were there halfway through our tenure. And then again, we diversified, figured out some stuff, developed a sales process, hired some people, many of whom are still there 8, 10, 12, 14 years later. And it's still a going concern. So, get that organized. I mean, again, find a partner, peer, to help you sort of organize that process, but make it so that it's a business that's not dependent on the owners. From there, we made the decision, you stay, I'll go, get a valuation done. And I mean, obviously I'm oversimplifying, but, plan the work and then work the plan, directionally, what we're looking to do here is have me exit, have you stay, continue as an ongoing operation. What are the steps we need to do to get there? We got some help from some advisors, got a valuation done, talked to finance people, et cetera. And ultimately over the course of, and it takes time and effort. I mean, it was, I don't know, 7 or 8 months from kind of, okay, this is the direction we want to go, to, signing paperwork, shaking hands, and, bidding farewell kind of thing. So, but any business, you want to be succession planning, at a level that's appropriate, and it looked very different when we were, 20 years in, then it looked when we were 10 years in, then it looked when we were 10 months in, right? At first you're bootstrapping and you're just running as fast as you can. And, one of our advisors at some point, you're probably 4 or 5 years in, said, okay, you guys are starting to, the business is getting some traction. You're starting to make some money here. You really need to get a shareholders agreement together. And we were 5 years in, right? So, the urgent will always crowd out the important. The key aspect is to make sure you're doing some planning all the time at a level that's appropriate to, how old you are, what's your, what's your time frame, time horizon, and all that kind of stuff. As we had gotten older, as the business had advanced, we got a lot more involved in succession planning, exit strategy, all that kind of stuff, just conceptually, so that, when the time came, it wasn't that big of an event. We could see kind of the steps from today to closing day reasonably clearly, able to get it done, communicate effectively to all of the stakeholders, our families, our friends, our employees, our customers, our vendors. Everybody fears change, but if you do it systematically, you do it effectively, it can work out fine for everybody. And that's exactly what happened here. So.
Oh, that's great. I love the urgent crowds out the important. That is, if there's another mantra in life that's so important for entrepreneurs, that becomes so true. That the tyranny of urgency is what I say. But I like the way you put that too.
Joe, I mean, and especially today, because, this is always going to be blinking at you, buzzing at you, ringing at you. There's every hour of every day, every minute of every hour of every day, every second of every, there's something urgent going on right there. And so, just be conscious of it and take that time to focus on, okay, what's the big picture? And again, it doesn't mean that every entrepreneur starting out needs to, spend a lot of money on lawyers, on shareholder agreements and whatnot, but, have it on the plan somewhere. Once we get to a point, we're going to get more serious about that and have that milestone, if you will, as part of your business plan.
Absolutely. Joe, thanks for joining us today. If people want to get a hold of you and they're interested in learning more about you, the business you're in currently, what's the best way for them to get a hold of you?
Yeah, I mean, it was really good talking with you. I appreciate the chance to be here and have a chat. I love talking about this stuff. I love talking about business. So easiest way to find me, frankly, is on LinkedIn. The Skotarzak, as we were sort of talking about, it's a blessing and a curse to have a last name like that, but there ain't very many of us out there. or check us out at compassmsp.com. So, but either LinkedIn or there.
Awesome. Again, Joe, thanks a lot. This is Joe Skotarzak. He's been an entrepreneur. He's now the general manager at Mother G, a Compass MSP company. If you learn some stuff, remember the urgent crowds out the important, and be humble and be ready to ask and be ready to work that network, and be ready to plan, but be ready for that plan to change quite a bit. So we have some additional opportunities coming up. We're being blessed by the chance here on October 26th. I've got 4 of the folks we've interviewed before on Entrepreneur Encounters coming back. 4 founders' stories from struggle to success: Denise Thomas, Sharon Kevel, Chad Johnson, Jaime Nanez. You may have seen them all. If you haven't, I want to encourage you to go back and look at my channel and take a look at that. We're going to be live at On the Bayou Restaurant, or you can register to join the Zoom or LinkedIn live stream. So click on the QR code there if you want, or you got my email information, brent@halfwasson.com. Drop me a note. I'll be happy to give you the information to sign up there. If you're enjoying what we're doing here in Entrepreneur Encounters, I want to tell you that there's still an opportunity to join our Wednesday format, where we have a variety of entrepreneurs get together. Wednesday, 4:30 Central. You can get us at bit.ly/entrepreneur encounters. Sign up, join us. Just come on as an entrepreneur. It's a chance to troubleshoot some of your problems. We'll kind of workshop them out. You can share your successes. You can put out your goals and get some accountability. And other entrepreneurs are there along with myself to be able to share, to be able to build into you. None of us can do this alone. Again, if there's anything you can pick up on the theme from every single one of these interviews, not one single person did it alone. We all built a network. So speaking of not being able to do it alone, I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about our sponsors as of today. Andrew Feller Photography has done all our photography both here and on our website. Buckethead Creative helps us with all of our graphics. Charlie's Music Factory and what Chris Crane does, and Chris Crane Productions is going to do our music on the way out. And Milwaukee Web Designs and Megan Bruzan have helped me get the web up and going and continue to improve it. So again, I'm Brent Halfwasson. I'm happy to be here with you. I'm an entrepreneur coach. If I can help you grow your business to profitability, I do want to encourage you to reach out to me. Again, you can get me brent@halfwasson.com. You can also reach out to me at LinkedIn or find us on our website at halfwassonassociates.com. So with that, I'm going to ask Chris Crane to go ahead and take us out.